You want to be front and center?
Yeah. Right up front and center. Just don't sit right here.
Almost with ketchup.
You can grab a whiteboard too and a pen. We'll need that. Yeah, that's great. You can go on there too if you want. You guys can sit right on it. I think people will.
You can sit here. Becca, yeah. You can sit up. Oh my goodness. Oh, Mary. Sit here.
Okay. Let's get started. There's a couple more who are signed up aren't here yet, but we got a lot of yet today.
I'm totally good.
Come on, there's Lisa. Just in time, Lisa. We haven't quite gotten started yet.
We can come sit here if you want.
Hey, gang. So, welcome. This is probably the workshop I'm most excited about to run. I'm really, really passionate about this topic and getting to talk more about women's health. And I think it's something that really doesn't get talked about enough. So, I'm really had a lot of fun prepping for this, and I'm excited for today. So, some of kind of my main goals for today. Obviously, I'm not gonna be able to like cure hot flashes or make your cramps go away or anything. I'm sorry, I don't have that power. If you're hoping you pay $10 for this, I'm gonna fix that. That's not how this is gonna go. But these are kind of my main goals for today. So, of course, I want to help you guys kind of gain some knowledge of your own body. Some of it might be stuff you already know, but I hope there can be something maybe you'll learn a little bit. And then I am going to give you some practical management strategies for both menstrual cycle and menopause, maybe some tips and tricks you can use to help out. And then kind of my biggest thing for today is hoping to help open up this topic for further conversation and communication in the future. So even just like, you know, being more comfortable with the women in this room talking about it, or knowing that you can always come and talk to me about this subject, I think we need to try and kind of remove the taboo from this subject and become more comfortable discussing it. So, okay, clear out the workout. We're gonna check you out. So today we're gonna have two parts today. First part we're gonna be talking about menstrual cycle and periods, and then second half we're gonna be talking about menopause. I'm hoping for about 20-ish minutes of me talking on each, so there's a little time for some questions and stuff too. But if you have questions as we go along too, please don't hesitate to ask. But it's gonna be a lot of me talking today. We are, though, for something a little bit interactive, we're going to be starting with some trivia first, just to kind of test out your knowledge. So if you don't have a whiteboard, you can grab one, or you can share with a partner. We're going to start off with our menstrual cycle questions. I'm going to have 5 different questions. There's no score. Don't worry. But there's no leader for it. It's just for fun.
Thank you. Score.
Okay, so question number 1.
33 days?
How long is the average menstrual cycle? A, 7 days, B, 28 days, C, 4 days, or D, 33 days? I want you to write down your answer.
It can't be 33 days.
That's part of the question. Might be a trick question. Okay, write down your answer. We gotta get through these. Okay, everyone, let's flip around your answers, see what we got. We got some B's and A. Bronco, what'd you put on there?
I'm hiding.
You're hiding. Put them one at a time. We got some B's. We got some A. We got some A's. Okay. A lot of B's seems to be the general consensus, but definitely some A's. Correct answer is B.
What?
So, this is a bit of a trick question. When I say menstrual cycle, that is referring to the entire cycle your body's going through. It is not just the point of your period where you're bleeding. That would then be like the 4 days or 7 days, depending on the person. That was a trick question. The average is actually 28 days, so the whole month. I just had to start off with a pen. Question 2, true or false? Women who live in close proximity with one another will typically have their cycles synchronized. Just go with your gut.
Are you going to explain why?
I'm gonna explain my answer. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of truths. You guys are gonna hate me. Answer false. So, I did some research on this. There is actually no scientific evidence proving this. It does happen because women's cycles are different lengths. So like one woman, there might be every 28 days they start, the next woman might be 29, and then your other roommate might be 30. So over time, mathematically, it is going to overlap, but you don't actually, there's no scientific evidence saying your hormones actually link up. You can disagree, that's okay, but that's what the science shows. Okay, which of the following is not a phase of the menstrual cycle?
No idea.
Luteal, ovulation, follicular, or fibroblasts? Just guess. You'll know by the end of today. I just thought I'd start with some fun.
wouldn't know if I didn't look at you.
I'm gonna just guess.
Hey, we got
Tail
D.
was a muscle.
A lot of D.
Sounds like a yeah. I
Okay,
think
fibroblasts. You guys are all correct. Answer is fibroblasts. Fibroblasts is actually a type of cell that builds collagen and connective tissue. So I thought I'd throw that in for fun. Okay, true or false? Large amounts of weight loss can decrease or stop your period.
I think.
Like large.
Like
Yeah.
large.
Unhealthily.
Yeah, not just like 5 pounds.
Yeah.
I think
but
this is true.
Yeah, seen a lot of truths. That is correct. So extreme weight loss or body fat loss can stop periods, and this can have some pretty severe health conditions. This is more common in like young female athletes, especially in like gymnastics or dance, where it's very aesthetic based. So that can be pretty serious. Okay, final question before I get into my more serious stuff. Throughout our
Oh my
lives,
God.
how many periods will women typically have on average? 200, 350, 500, or 740?
Total guess.
Okay, we got some C's.
We did some quick
Got some
math.
D's. Okay. B. Got here. Okay, so answer is 350. This equates now, depending on how long you actually bleed for, it equates to about 4 to 6 years of nonstop
Oh,
bleeding.
that could make sense.
If a man had that, we'd be talking about this a lot more. Yeah, D. So around 350 periods.
Does not account for when you stop.
Okay.
Like as
So that's kind of fun. Now we gotta get into the other stuff now.
70.
So this is a little bit of an overview of what is happening throughout our period, throughout the month. So now you can see those words that we use, and there's no fibroblast on there. So that was your question. So basically, the role of your menstrual cycle is to prepare the body for the possibility of pregnancy. Come on in, Tanya. We're just getting started. Okay. So typically, like I said earlier, this on average ranges from about 28 days, but it really can vary from about 23, maybe even up to 36 days. This can get shorter or longer due to a lot of things, such as your health condition that you're in, your age, or different hormone fluctuations that might be occurring. Kind of the main, we have technically kind of 3 phases. Now this splits up menstruation, which is when you're actually bleeding, and then the follicular phase. As I go on talking about this, you're going to hear me refer of these two together. So menstruation and follicular phase together. There's just a few different names for that. So when we start in what I call the early follicular stage, which is also menstruation, this is when you're actually bleeding, and we're going to talk about it more a little bit later, what's actually happening. But that's normally about 4 to 7 days, depending on the woman. After that, we go into the late follicular phase. So this is occurring from after you stop your period up until ovulation occurs. This is normally about a week to 10 days, and normally in this time, your energy is going to be a lot higher. We're going to talk about that again a little bit later. This is an overview. Then around kind of day 14 is when ovulation occurs. This is when your ovaries are going to release an egg, and this is the time when you're most fertile, most likely to get pregnant throughout that because you have that freshly released egg. And then after that, for the remaining 2 weeks, we go into the luteal phase. Normally about 2 weeks, and this is when the body's going to start preparing the uterus for potentially if that egg was to be fertilized and you were to get pregnant. So before we dive into each of those sections a little bit more, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the 2 main hormones we're going to be talking a lot about today. So estrogen and progesterone are the 2 main female sex hormones, and there's of course a lot more involved, but these are kind of the biggest ones. So estrogen, its main function basically is to prepare the body for fertilization. So it's going to help prepare that egg to be released, and it also helps regulate your periods, keeping them consistent from month to month. This is produced in the ovaries, and it normally peaks in the late follicular phase. That's kind of near the 2nd week of your cycle, right before ovulation, so right before that egg is released. This is typically termed the feel-good hormone because it actually results in an increase in serotonin release. Bless you. Increase in serotonin. Serotonin is a hormone that really makes you feel good and kind of boosts your mood. So more estrogen helps you feel better. Some physical effects that estrogen can have on the body: it's going to help protect your muscles from damage. It helps reduce inflammation, and it also helps increase recovery, like muscle recovery and overall body recovery. So when estrogen is higher is the time you want to be pushing it a little bit more in the gym because we're kind of primed for that. Then our second hormone, progesterone. Its main function is to prepare the uterine lining for potential what's called implantation, which is if that egg was fertilized, it's then going to implant into the uterus so that it can grow safely. This is going to be really high throughout the luteal phase, so after ovulation, when your uterus is kind of building up that lining. This is what is termed a catabolic hormone, meaning it focuses more on fat buildup, so it's trying to store fat because it wants to keep your body safe and your uterus safe in case you get pregnant, but then therefore it does sometimes result in a little bit more muscle breakdown. So that means during this period, it can be a little bit harder to recover from exercise. I know I'm throwing a lot at you. I do have, like I did for the core one too, I have some sheets I'm going to be sending you guys with some summary stuff, so if this is just like a lot, don't worry. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about those main phases that happen. So early follicular phase, also known as menstruation or your actual period. What's happening here is basically your body detects that there is no pregnancy, there's no egg that's been fertilized, so it is going to start to shed that uterine lining that had built up because it no longer needs that to protect the potential baby. So this is the start of your next cycle. That's day one of your cycles when your period starts. During this time, energy typically tends to be a little bit lower. Of course, this depends on every person, but normally when you start your period, you're not feeling too hot for the first couple days. This is due to a couple things. It can be from both estrogen and progesterone actually drop quite a bit throughout the first days of your period. And then also normally there's other symptoms such as cramps and just general fatigue, so you just don't always feel your best. After that, we move into the late follicular phase. It's kind of week 2 of your cycle. This is from the end of menstruation, so the end of your period, up until the next egg is released, so ovulation occurs. So during this time, the hormones and the ovaries are going to be working to develop a mature egg to be prepared to release it for ovulation. So estrogen is really going to start to rise throughout this time, helping prepare for the release of that next egg. So that slow increase in estrogen, like I said, estrogen is kind of the happy hormone. So that's going to result in boosted mood, increased energy levels, and you tend to be more focused and kind of motivated towards change during this time of the month. So this week, kind of week 2 of your cycle, is normally the best time to maybe try and make changes. If you're trying to set a new goal, your body is primed for it at this time, maybe not so much during the other time, so this is a good time to kind of see if you want to make any changes or push yourself for certain things. Okay, then we go into ovulation, which isn't really a time period, it's kind of just a set event of the egg being released. So there is a sudden spike in various different hormones that we're not talking about today, but that now allow the matured egg to be released from the ovaries. And the egg is going to stay in what's called the fallopian tubes, which is basically what connects the ovaries into the uterus. Normally the egg stays there until it is fertilized. Sometimes it moves into the uterus as well, kind of depending. During this time, the body is on high alert for becoming pregnant, and they're actually, I'm saying that next, never mind. You're fertile for up to about 5 days before and after ovulation. So there's about a 8 to 10 day window where you're most likely to get pregnant. So people can track ovulation if they're trying to get pregnant. A way to track this is through a sharp increase in body temperature happens right on the day that you ovulate. Now it's only like, I think 0.5 of a degree, but that's a decent amount because our body temperature doesn't change that much. So that's a way you can kind of start to monitor it, and even if you're not trying to monitor your fertility, it's a good way just to keep track of your cycle, see where you're at in your cycle. This is typically kind of a turning point on how your body feels. After ovulation, things kind of start to take a bit of a turn for the worse, unfortunately. So, speaking of, we then get into the luteal phase, which in some of the research I did, people call it like the dark night and stuff. That was funny. Whoa. So, during this time, after ovulation, your body is now starting to prepare for pregnancy. So it's going to be building up the uterine lining. It's going to be building up a lot of tissue and blood vessels and nerves to help protect and build in case you do get pregnant. During this time, estrogen is going to drop and that progesterone is going to increase because it's trying to build up that uterus. So because of those changes in hormones, energy and motivation levels typically tend to start to decline throughout this. This is about a 2-week period. Normally you feel a little bit better at the start, and it kind of gets worse as you go, because then we start to enter into what people call PMS, which is kind of that week before our period. A lot of symptoms occur during this. Now, I know you're probably all familiar with this, but I have some kind of interesting facts on why some of these actually occur. So food cravings, you're probably all well associated with that, craving chocolate or just any sort of treats or anything. The scientific reason for this actually is because your body's trying to build up your uterus lining, it actually requires a little bit more energy, a little bit more nutrients to do that. So during this phase, your daily caloric need actually goes up by about 100 to 300 calories per day, which isn't a ton, like that's not a ton of food, but that does trigger your brain like, hey, we want a little bit more food, and so you're gonna start having those cravings, and then if we're already not feeling like that great, we're probably gonna turn towards our comfort food for that. Bloating and altered digestion is super common. Normally this is due to water retention, so progesterone can lead to the body holding on to more fluid, which just makes you feel a little bit more bloated. Mood swings, of course. Progesterone can have a really big effect on the brain, so that can cause kind of the roller coaster of emotions we probably have all experienced. And then, of course, the terrible cramping. Part of this is just causing its muscular contractions throughout your uterus as it prepares to shed that uterine lining. Okay, so that's the overview of our cycle. We're going to talk a little bit about some management tactics for this. Now, of course, I got quite a few things in here. I'm not expecting you to just like throw them all into your life at once, but just maybe see if you can like pick and choose a couple things that you might want to try out. So 4 main things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about exercise. We're going to talk the most about that. We're going to talk about tracking our cycle, some nutrition strategies, and then just having compassion with yourself. So for exercise, learning when to train can really help with how you feel both in and out of the gym. Since we have those different, like we feel super different throughout those different phases of our period, we can't be expected to feel exactly the same every day in the gym. So here's kind of some general guidelines. Now everyone's going to be different, so you can just listen to your body as well. But typically during our menstruations, during our actual period, the energy is lower, so we tend to need to stick to a little bit lower intensity, maybe some lighter movement. Even stuff like yoga and breathwork can really help with cramps actually, so it might not be the time to completely push yourself in the gym. If you feel great and want to go for it, nothing wrong with that, it's not dangerous, but it's just good to like kind of have the awareness of it. During that late follicular phase, so kind of week 2, this is the time estrogen's the highest, so we're feeling the best here. This is the time you can really push yourself for high intensity, maybe even try and push for some PRs. Then kind of around ovulation, the week around there or after, we'll still probably feel decent, so maybe moderate to high intensity. Of course, you can always still do high intensity workouts, but you just might not feel as well, especially as we get then into the luteal phase. You might want to pull back a little bit, but it kind of depends on your own personal symptoms. So you can still show up, you can do the work of the day, but sometimes it's just nice to be more compassionate with yourself and be like, you know, maybe I'm going to take a lighter weight today or do less burpees today. So I'm sure no one would object to that. Yeah! I'm in my luteal phase. I can't do t-shirts. Yeah, we're gonna get t-shirts.
I just would love to hear Mark's or Kim's.
So have a color-coded faces. Doesn't need to know.
I have a bit of a graph here just to kind of visualize that as well. So this is showing those 2 main hormones. We have in the orange estrogen. So you can see it starts low during our period and then it peaks right before ovulation. It does go up a little bit throughout the luteal phase, but mostly stays the same. And then that progesterone is fairly low, and then it's going to peak throughout the middle of that luteal phase. So during your period, you're normally feeling pretty low energy. You want to take it down a little bit. When we're in that follicular phase, you're probably going to feel really good. Just try and go for it as much as you can. And then energy is going to start to come down as we go again. So not to say that you only have 1 week that you're going to feel good in the gym, but it's been the past couple of months since I've been prepping for this workshop, I've just been trying to be more kind of aware of my cycle and paying attention to it. And it's actually been really good for me and really healthy for my mindset as well. Being like, okay, like today I'm ready, I can really push it because I'm in my follicular stage. Or, you know, when I'm here, I'd be like, oh, why do I feel like crap today in the gym? And being like, that's why there's hormonal changes happening. So that's okay to be compassionate with yourself about that. So kind of in relation to that, obviously we need to track our cycle in order to know where we're at in our cycle if we want to plan our training like that. So just some benefits of tracking your cycle. Like I said, it can help plan your training. It also can kind of help you prepare for your symptoms so you're not like blindsided when you suddenly get hit by really bad cramps. And it also can just make you feel a lot more connected to your body. Now, I use an app for this. There's a lot of different period tracking apps, such as Flow or Clue. I'm going to send out some of them in the notes I sent to you guys. Some people even just do it using a calendar. If you have a paper calendar, you can just mark a dot when your period starts and kind of count out the weeks until you expect your next one. Okay, so my notes got tiny. A couple of nutrition strategies here. So eating enough food is super important to maintain a healthy period. So food equals fuel, of course, and having a healthy menstrual cycle depends on having enough nutrients. This is because if you're not eating enough, your body's gonna realize that you're not in a healthy enough state to sustain a pregnancy, so it might actually shut down your period so you're not at risk of getting pregnant and not being able to support that fetus. So this is kind of ties into earlier, like in our quiz question of how that severe weight loss, so things such as really extensive fasting or restrictive diets, if not done properly and safely, can affect your menstrual cycle. Eating enough complex carbohydrates is good. This is more like whole grains. Complex carbohydrates is another way that your body senses how safe a pregnancy would be, because carbs are one of the main energy sources. Eating enough complex carbohydrates can also help reduce your cravings for the more simple carbohydrates like chips and candies and stuff, because your body realizes it has enough carbs. Staying hydrated is super important. Of course, it's important for everyone, but this can really help reduce bloating. If you're able to stay hydrated enough, it can help ease that fluid retention. So this would be especially important during that luteal phase when normally our bodies are a little more bloated. Then finally, monitoring trigger foods. So trigger foods would be really anything that can make your symptoms worse or kind of increase inflammation. Kind of the biggest examples that I found in my research was highly processed foods can really increase those symptoms. And then things such as alcohol and caffeine can affect water balance, so will definitely make you feel a little more bloated. I'm not saying you have to cut them out, but sometimes it's good just to keep an eye on them. Okay, then final point on this is just compassion with yourself. So listening to your body is super important. I think a lot of times, since especially this topic isn't discussed enough, we just kind of don't listen to it, we kind of shove it down and push through the symptoms. But I really don't believe that that's a healthy way to go about this. I think it's totally okay just to listen to your body and be like, yeah, I'm not feeling the best today, maybe I'm just gonna pull it back in the gym a bit, or take a little more time to take care of myself. Understanding the difference between the female and male hormone cycle. So men are typically on a 24-hour hormone cycle. So their hormones will peak at the same time every day and go down at the same time every day. So they're gonna feel pretty consistent every day to day. Women, like we've talked about, we're on that 28 to 30 day hormone cycle. So we're gonna feel different every day of the month, unfortunately. That's how it goes. So again, just kind of in relation to the gym, we can't be expected to feel exactly the same every day. Then finally, talking to others. So like I said, it's one of my goals for today. Just starting to open up this conversation with others. It can help you feel less alone about this. It can help decrease kind of the shame and stigma that tends to be associated with this topic. So that's definitely a really good goal for that. Okay, so before we move into menopause, is there any questions on periods?
Do you have any information on how birth control affects those cycles?
Yeah, so that's a big question. I haven't looked into it a ton. It is something I'm very interested in. It definitely depends on the different types of birth control. Like some birth control can actually prevent ovulation from happening. Some, like I know a IUD just prevents the uterus lining from building up, so you still do ovulate, but it's not really a place that the egg could be implanted. I would have to look into that a little bit more. I think some definitely can affect it, but you still tend to go through similar cycles, but it does definitely change it a lot when you're putting different hormones into your body. Yeah, good question. Any other questions? We'll have some time at the end probably too for a couple. So. Okay, it's quiz time again. Oh. We're gonna talk about menopause. I need some water.
Everyone give a
The guys really should have.
Okay,
I'm like,
so I got another 5. Do you guys need a little walk break or anything, or we're good to go?
We're good.
Okay.
Perimenopause.
Yeah, grab a mat. I'm gonna move this fan. Of course.
We need to be on the back.
No, you're good. Just twist it a little bit. Too much talking. Doing great for time. Okay, so I got another 5 quiz questions again. This time now on menopause. We'll see if I can trick you guys as much again. Okay, question number 1. Which of the following is not a phase, so kind of one of the various stages of menopause? We have perimenopause, partial menopause, postmenopause, or premenopause. Give you a minute to get your answers down. Do you want to whiteboard them anymore? Oh, I don't know where they went.
Oh, they're right there. Does anybody need one? Do you need one? I think it's D.
Oh, there's another one?
I've never heard of pre. I've
Yeah,
heard of
Tracy's
peri.
grabbing one there.
I know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Me too. I didn't want to knock the camera over.
No, partial is
Okay,
The partial's
everyone,
strange.
hold up to your answers.
Classic.
Okay. We got A, we got, what does that say?
D.
Premenopause? Okay. Got a lot of B's though, seems to be the general consensus. B is the correct
it is the
answer.
partial one.
Partial menopause is not a thing. Premenopause isn't really, premenopause is just if you haven't started perimenopause, if you're having regular periods, you're technically premenopausal. So that's a little bit, yeah. I am currently premenopausal, which that is funny that I'm teaching the menopause course. Me and Mom have been chuckling about that, I think.
I don't
Okay.
think I would have said the word menopause out loud when I was 21.
I love talking about this. Yeah. Okay, true or false? Joint and muscle pain / aches is not a symptom of menopause. True or false?
False, false,
False.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was hoping you guys would all get that right. This is a super common symptom experienced by at least 40% of women, sometimes even more. That's just one of the
That's why
data
they say do
stats that I
CrossFit.
saw.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the average age for perimenopause to start? 30 to 33, 38 to 40,
C.
41 to 44, or 50 to 53?
Actually, it could be B or C. D.
Oh, that's a hard one. Is it changing over the decade?
Yeah,
We got C's, we got some D's, we got some B's. Okay, okay.
We know it. We know it.
So, C.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, we
this
do.
of course, this is just what the research says. Every woman is going to be different, but the average age is typically between 41 to 44 is when this starts. Some women start earlier. There can be medical reasons that start early menopause or various other things, but that is the average. Okay, true or false? You are not able to become pregnant throughout perimenopause. Yeah, false. Okay, no cheers, okay, good. So, throughout perimenopause, you are still getting periods, even if they're irregular. Since you're having a period, that means you're still ovulating, so there is still a chance of pregnancy. So women who are not wanting to get pregnant, it's recommended that they stay on birth control for at least 12 months, like after perimenopause. Okay, typically, how long does the entire process of menopause, all the phases, last for? 1 to 2 years, 3 to 6, 8 to 12, or 14 plus. And this is average, of course.
Please don't
So,
disappoint me now.
C or D.
Is this including
there we got
Please
some.
say A or B.
Is including peri?
It's not.
Yeah, perimenopause and menopause. Yeah. C's, some D's, we got B. Okay, we got a wide range on this one. Okay, C is the average answer. Remember, average. It's average. This is like the lunch. 8 to 12. So that is a long time. Now this is all the way from the start of perimenopause when you start getting irregular periods up until the what we're going to talk about when menopause technically is finished. It is a big period of life, and if it starts kind of in your 40s, it's normally in a very important period of your life. Your job might be at its peak. You might have kids who are like in high school or moving out, or some big stressors happening in life. So it just baffles me that we don't talk about this more because that is a huge chunk of a woman's life that is affected by this. So we're gonna change that. We're gonna talk about it. Okay, that is it for trivia questions. I had a couple of stats here that I found that I thought were really interesting. So this is from a website called the Menopause Foundation of Canada. In 2022, they conducted a survey. Now, I'm not sure how many women this was done on, but they gathered some really interesting stats that I think really show how many issues still surround this topic and kind of how much stigma and challenges there still is surrounding menopause. So, out of the women surveyed, 54% of women reported that they feel as though this topic is still taboo and they don't really feel comfortable discussing it. 1 in 2 women, so 50%, feel underprepared for menopause and perimenopause. 55% wish that they had learned about it earlier in life. I have learned a lot through this that I didn't even know in school. Like, I should know this from my degree, but like putting in the work has been really good for this. And 4 in 10 women feel alone during menopause. They report.
That's terrible.
Which is terrible, right? So kind of my goal through this, now of course we only got an hour here, we can only do so much, but is to start trying to help change some of these statistics for you guys and help just kind of open up this topic for conversation to hopefully help you maybe not feel as alone or help, you know, those of you that are younger here maybe feel more prepared for this time in your life. Okay, so a little bit of an overview, and then we will dive into these areas a little bit more. So like we said, premenopause is kind of a stage. It's not really a stage of menopause, but it's basically any time up until you start perimenopause when you are still having regular periods. So most women are in this stage for probably about like 30-ish years of their life, depending when they start their period. Then we move into perimenopause. So this is defined as irregular periods and various amounts of menopausal symptoms typically start to arise during this time. Then we have what's actually termed menopause. Even this whole thing is referred to as menopause. Menopause is 12 consecutive months with no period. So you are in menopause when you have that full year without any menstruation. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And then there's postmenopause or postmenopausal after you finish that 12 consecutive, those 12 consecutive months without a period. So we will talk about those a little bit more shortly. First though, I know this is super small, so you can't see it, that's okay, I will explain it as well. This is a little chart that I liked showing hormone levels throughout a woman's life. So this is showing all the way from 25 up into 75. Now it does have 4, we have estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and melatonin. We're mostly just talking about the 2 here today, of course. So estrogen, throughout early in our life, we just have these little fluctuations. That's from our regular menstrual cycle. It goes up and down every month. But then when you see this little kind of crazy section here with it spiking up and down like crazy, this is during perimenopause. So during perimenopause, estrogen starts to go through those really irregular peaks and drops, and it does kind of gradually decrease over time. Those fluctuations tend to be kind of the main culprit of a lot of symptoms. So things like hot flashes, brain fog, insomnia, irritation, tons of different things can happen. And this is kind of one of the main leading factors that leads to menopause is this decline in estrogen, which starts to result in changes in other hormones in our body as well. As you get into kind of postmenopausal, you do see it's a lot lower than it was before menopause, but it does kind of get levels out again instead of those crazy spikes after you go through menopause. Then this dark blue one, I know it's super tiny, but this is progesterone. So again, it's similar at the start, pretty regular, but then it does start to drop off very rapidly. This is because progesterone is mainly produced when you ovulate. So as you stop ovulating as frequently, your progesterone levels are going to drop rapidly. Progesterone can have, even though I know we kind of talked about some of the negative-ish effects it can have on the body, it can really have a good calming effect on the body as well. So as those levels start to drop, that can be one of the main causes of like irritation, anxiety, and sleep disturbances. We do also have melatonin here, which is pretty regular throughout our life and then drops down during menopause and then is pretty low throughout the rest. Melatonin regulates your sleep and wake cycles, so that can be a big culprit as well of like insomnia and sleep disturbances. Okay, this is, my bad, it's tiny. I'm not expecting you guys to read all of this. This is also from that same kind of survey area that I showed you that stats from, and it's talking about the different symptoms that a lot of women experience. Now, one fact that they said that is written but super tiny, so you don't have to worry about that. This survey found that 95% of women reported experiencing menopausal symptoms. And out of those women, the average number of symptoms, different symptoms that they experienced, was 7. So most women are experiencing at least 7 symptoms throughout this time. Now this is showing kind of the frequency, so we have a lot of different things: hot flashes, sleep disturbances, night sweats, fatigue, going down through a list. Some that I kind of like to highlight too that I think are not always talked about maybe are things like there's just general fatigue, overall fatigue, memory issues and brain fog. Yeah, Veronica, question.
Can you read for us top 7?
Top 7, yes. Hot flashes, sleep disturbances, night sweats, fatigue, period changes, mood swings, low libido, and memory issues. Yeah. There's a lot more it goes down to. We have the body aches, anxiety, hair changes, vaginal dryness, headaches, migraines, incontinence and leakage, sexual arousal issues, depression, heart palpitations, skin issues. It just goes on and on. So, I don't say this to scare you guys, especially you younger ones who haven't entered this period. I don't want you to be traumatized by this. But I just like this. It's showing how many women experience these. So it's showing you if you're having a lot of these symptoms, you're not alone in this. This is normal, even though it sucks. It is normal, and you're not alone in it. Another one that's not on this that I like to talk about is changes in body fat distribution. So due to a wide range of all the hormones that are changing, now this might result in weight gain, a lot of women experience, but even if you're not changing your the number on the scale, a lot of time weight starts to shift towards the abdomen. So due to the hormonal changes, it's going to start moving from like the periphery, so the arms and legs, and starts to just go and sit around the stomach, and it can be really challenging to get rid of that and manage that. So that is due to all the hormones that are changing in your body. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about those main phases. So perimenopause. This is basically the transition of your reproductive to non-reproductive years. Now, like we said in our little quiz questions, you are still potentially fertile throughout this because you are still having some periods, but it's kind of the transition period into not being able to have children anymore. So throughout this, function of your ovaries starts to decrease and less ovulation occurs. So your periods start to become more irregular. This is basically the defining factor of entering into perimenopause, is you get those irregular periods. So since the ovaries are starting to function not quite as well, estrogen levels are really going to start to drop. Same with progesterone, and then we start to get that fewer and fewer release of the eggs, so fewer ovulation. The irregular periods can be, it really depends on each person. They might be closer together, further apart, they might last longer, shorter. You might seem to have like 2 kind of back to back, or be lighter or heavier. Really is different for each woman. Perimenopause tends to last for an average of 4 to 8 years. So again, it's a big span of time. Some women might be way longer or shorter, and it typically starts somewhere between the ages of 40 to 50. Okay. Then menopause, as I said earlier, this is defined as the 12 consecutive months with no period. So in this, you won't actually really know that you're in official menopause, not perimenopause, technically until it's done, because you could be like 10 months in with no period and then suddenly get a period. Surprise, you're still in perimenopause. It sucks. Start all over again. So you won't really know. But basically during this time, when this does happen, estrogen has decreased to a level that ovulation is no longer going to occur, so you do not get a period anymore. Unfortunately, the symptoms that tend to arise during perimenopause tend to get a little bit worse during this year, and just still, because there's a lot of hormonal changes happening, so they do start to increase in severity a little bit throughout this time. I feel like this is a lot of like depressing information. We're going to get to the management quickly here. Then we have postmenopause. So this is after menopause, so after you've gone through that year with no period. Good news is symptoms typically start to decline with time here because your body's now getting used to those lower levels of hormones, and it's kind of starting to regulate that a little bit. However, due to those low hormones, especially the low estrogen, there can be some risk for some certain conditions such as cardiovascular disease and 2 things called osteoporosis and sarcopenia, but we're going to talk about how to manage those. Okay, now we get past the depressing stuff into some better stuff. We're going to talk about management. So I have 5 kind of main sections here. We're going to talk about exercise, especially resistance training. We're going to spend the most amount of time on that one because it's super important. We're going to talk about some nutrition strategies, mindset and stress, the importance of symptom tracking, and then a little bit about hormone replacement therapy. So, sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is kind of very broadly defined as an age-associated decline in muscle mass. Now, this happens to everyone as we age. Our bodies naturally start to lose more muscle, but this can be increased due to the drops of estrogen and testosterone that happen during menopause. Now, there is some more kind of like to be termed sarcopenic. There's like some various different diagnostic things, but just the general process is that decline in muscle mass. One fact I found that I thought was quite interesting and a little bit scary is after the age of 30, sedentary women, so women who don't work out or anything, they start losing about 3 to 8% of muscle mass every year. So that is very serious. And the effect of that low muscle mass is a lot of things, of course, but some of them is a higher fall risk and a higher injury risk because you're not as strong and stable. It also can, of course, decrease your strength and power, which makes like just your daily life more challenging, and then a decrease in metabolic activity. So muscle is very metabolically active, meaning it burns a lot of calories and a lot of energy. So the lower that gets, that can make it harder to maintain our weight and can affect that kind of muscle-fat balance that is challenging during menopause. Good news, sarcopenia can be decreased or even reversed by regular exercise. So you guys are all doing the right thing by being in the gym here. Probably the most important thing you can be doing for your health and your menopause health is being here. It can help just reduce that rate that muscle is being lost, or some people have actually been able to increase their muscle mass and have more muscle mass than they did before menopause. Okay, and then second kind of big condition is what's termed osteoporosis. So again, kind of the general definition of this is a decrease in bone mineral density. So the density of your bones, the more dense your bones are, the harder they are to break. The less dense your bones are, the more at risk you are for a fracture. So even a smaller fall might have a higher risk for like a wrist fracture or something, and that's why a lot of times, especially older women, are much easier to break their bones because of osteoporosis. Estrogen plays a really big role in maintaining bone mineral density. So when levels are high enough, estrogen helps to prevent the breakdown of bone, which is naturally always happening in our body, and it's going to help maintain that bone mineral density. But due to the drop levels that happen during menopause, the bone mineral density can start to decrease a lot, which makes you a lot more at risk for a fracture. Now again, I have another graph here, and it's a little bit fuzzy here, but we can more just look at the big blue and pink lines here. So for both men and women, these are showing our bone mineral, our bone mass, or our bone density throughout our life for men and women. For both men and women, this tends to peak around the age kind of like 30 or 35, and it's going to stay at that higher level for probably about 10 to 15 years. However, at about the age of 45, for everyone, men and women, that bone mineral density starts to decline at a rate of about 0.4% per year. So not drastic. You can see for the men, it's kind of a subtle, gradual decline. However, for women, unfortunately, again, woohoo! As we enter menopause, as that estrogen starts to drop, the decline of bone mineral density can actually drop to 4.4% per year. Wow. So it's 4% more than what men are losing of their bone mineral density. So we can see that big decline here, and then it's a lot lower for women than it is for men post-menopause. Now the good news is the most important management for this is weight-bearing exercise. So really anything we're doing in the gym, it doesn't even mean like lifting heavy weights. Now resistance training, lifting weights is very important, especially for women as we get older. But really anything where you're moving your body is putting impact on your bones. It stresses them, which makes them build up stronger. So this working out can actually increase bone density, and it's going to keep your bones a lot stronger and a lot safer. Some studies have actually proven that you are able to either maintain the bone mineral density that you had like before menopause and prevent osteoporosis, or some women are even able to like improve it a little bit. So there is definitely some ways we can manage that. It's not just like doomed to us all. It's gonna be okay. Nutrition strategies here. So getting enough protein is really important. So as we age, our ability to absorb and utilize enough protein in our body does actually decline with age. This is for both males and females. But due to the challenges with muscle mass starting to decline more with females, super important that you eat maybe even more protein throughout menopause so you can help to maintain that muscle mass. Consuming enough calcium and vitamin D is really important. These are really important for your bone health. They help build up your bones and keep them strong. So either eating enough through your diet, or sometimes maybe talk to your doctor about supplementation. A lot of women are on for those as well. Eating lots of fruits and veggies, of course, this is important for everyone, regardless of their gender or age, but there is a lot of micronutrients and fibers in these which can help with your gut health and help you kind of feel more full, which can really help with kind of that weight management, which can be challenging throughout this time. And then assessing your beverage intake, so staying hydrated, again, important for everyone, but this is gonna, like we talked about with our periods, help minimize that fluid retention, which will make you feel less bloated. And then now minimizing alcohol and caffeine, again, I'm not saying cut them out, but maybe just kind of monitor them and see how your body responds. Alcohol can worsen symptoms such as hot flashes and sleep disturbances or night sweats, and then caffeine can actually increase the anxiety and insomnia issues. Okay, mindset and stress. One of my biggest points that I want to get across to you guys today is be kind to yourself. Do not ignore all the changes that are happening. There's some massive hormonal changes happening throughout this time in your life, and I really think society puts a big damper on this, and it's just like, oh, like, it's just normal, it happens, but I really think we need to talk about it more and not just shove it down. Pay attention to what's happening and just be kind to yourself, acknowledge it, and be like, it's okay to maybe take it a little bit easier. Like we said with our period, maybe when you're in your your luteal phase. Prioritizing recovery is important. Due to some of the hormonal changes, muscles typically need a little bit longer to recover fully during or after menopause. So again, making sure you listen to your body and not pushing yourself too much so that you can make sure that you're recovering those muscles fully. Reaching out to others, like we've been talking about with our periods as well, talking to others, going through menopause, or others in this workshop, or talking to myself, I'm always open to that, can really just help you feel a lot less alone. Of course, it's not going to make your symptoms go away, but it can just help improve your mental health throughout this. And then reducing negative self-talk is a really big one. I think a lot of women are really hard on themselves throughout this time just because there's a lot going on that's outside of their control. But trying to call yourself out when you're thinking negatively about your body. The way I like to think about this is try and only talk to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend. You're not going to say mean comments about your best friend's body, about maybe they've gained some weight in their stomach. You're not going to call them out on that and say mean things about that. So why would you say that to yourself? I think you should treat yourself that same way. Okay, got a couple more here. Symptom tracking is going to be really important here. So monitoring and recording both physical and mental symptoms can be really beneficial. You might not even think something is menopause related, but maybe if you track it for a couple months, you might see some patterns in it and think it is related to what's going on. This can help improve autonomy and knowledge of what is happening in your body, make you feel more empowered. It's really good for medical records. You can show it to your doctor if you've been keeping track of stuff. It can help you recognize patterns or common symptoms. Then that can also help you identify what treatment might be needed or what treatment might be beneficial for you. I wanted to show you guys this one. Now, I'm not expecting you to see this. I just wanted to make the screen look a little bit pretty. This is an app that Mom was actually telling me about that is really good for monitoring your symptoms and tracking kind of the changes that are happening throughout menopause. So it's called Balance. I will be sending out a link for it as well for you guys. It helps you track a variety of symptoms, your mood, periods if you're still getting them, your sleep, and a variety of different things. What it does then is it actually will print you out or give you a PDF copy of a report of all the stuff that you have been logging. So this can be a really good thing to bring to your doctor and show them and kind of advocate for yourself of hey, I'm actually experiencing all of this stuff, because a lot of the time, now not every doctor, but some doctors do tend to kind of brush over this stuff, right? And just be like, oh, you just need to be on antidepressants or something, or you need to be on birth control to regulate your hormones and stuff. So this is a really good way to kind of help advocate for yourself. That leads into my final point here, talking a little bit about hormone replacement therapy. So this is a type of medical treatment that replaces the diminishing estrogen and progesterone levels. Now there's a lot of different types. Some have combinations of the hormones, some are just single hormones, and there's a lot of different administration methods like pills or creams, lots of different things. This is important since your body is no longer producing sufficient levels of those hormones. It is going to help boost those back up, which can help manage a lot of symptoms. So some of the main ones hormone replacement therapy is used for is helping manage hot flashes and night sweats, prevention of bone loss, so maintaining that bone mineral density, can help with sleep disturbances and mood change. Now, there has been a lot of debate about this topic kind of in the medical and science field of kind of the risk versus reward of this. There has been found some risks associated with HRT of increased risk for certain things such as specifically breast cancer. But there has also been a lot of new studies coming out lately that are disproving that and kind of disagreeing with that. One note that when I thought of when I was putting this together too is if you've ever been on birth control, say like the pill, you get the giant sheet of the 10 million different side effects and risks that could happen, and yet society thinks that's fine and doctor hands out birth control pills for everything, and yet a lot of doctors tend to be hesitant about HRT, even though it can help with a lot of things. So technically, within my scope of practice, I can't recommend that someone should go on HRT, but what I would say is if you're really struggling with some symptoms, is maybe just consider talking to your doctor about it. You can take that, if you track your symptoms and stuff with that app, you can take that report to your doctor and say, hey, here's all the things that I've been experiencing, and try and stand up for yourself and advocate for yourself. Kind of, I recommend doing your research about it beforehand, so you can maybe even like have that discussion and feel prepared for that if they're kind of pushing back on it a little bit. Okay, that is all I have. Is there any questions? We have a couple minutes.
So, big question, the genetics, like what does that play into? Because I always heard that if you want to know what your menopause is, you can look at your mom,
Yeah.
the women in your family to see what you're going to experience. But I don't know if that's true.
I mean, I haven't looked into that too much. I'm gonna write that down in my notes though, because some of these I do want to definitely. Ooh, you can see me writing.
I think one of the struggles with that though is that, I don't know about you, but my mom didn't even acknowledge most of
Yeah.
the symptoms that she had of
Yeah.
menopause.
So-
it was
My mom didn't
fabulous.
either, but when she said it, me and my sister looked at each other like,
Like,
you didn't see it, go
Yeah, so I think it definitely
Struggle
can
too, yeah.
play an effect. I think there probably is a pattern with a lot of women in that. But yeah, that's a great point of like me and mom have been talking about this of like when she was saying growing up, like menopause is like a scary word. You do not talk about it, right? And my generation is becoming a little more open with it. But yeah, I'd be interested to know about that, so I can look into that a bit more and get back to you. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much because this was fantastic.
Yeah,
and I
thank
think
you.
you show your passion and your knowledge and you're so informative and you did such a beautiful job. You should be really proud of yourself
Thank you.
because I am taking away so much from
Yeah,
this
good.
and I
Yeah.
just applaud you, Becca.
Aw, thank you. I love this talk. Like, even just researching this, I've really realized, like, this is something I want to do more with. Like, I'm very passionate about this. I think, Elisa, I saw your hand up.
Can we start a club? No.
Yes.
This is my question, but I think we should.
Yeah.
Partial menopause.
On Facebook. Is there some science behind if you were like if you started your menstruation early, like as a younger child, that you're gonna hit perimenopause earlier than average?
That's a good question.
That would be really
I have
interesting.
heard that too.
I have, yeah, I
Yeah.
could see because, I mean, some people say menopause occurs because you run out of the eggs, you never set
So
out
that would make
eggs.
sense.
For some people, that is the truth. Sometimes there is some more science coming out that it's more just the function of the ovary
Yeah.
starts declining. But again, this is good. I'm going to write these down.
And the other thing I just wanted to add is
Yeah.
that one of the things that we really don't talk about is the overwhelming rage that
Yes.
sometimes
Yes.
Wow.
when you go through perimenopause
Yeah.
and nobody really says, they say mood swings. No, like I am a really calm person generally, and I wanted to throw the coffee cup at my boss, and I was like, whoa, something's going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
be prepared and be aware that it's
Yeah.
not some
So
epic
true.
change in your personality. It's a hormone.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. This was a great session. I really enjoyed it. Actually, you were commenting how great speaker you are and
Aw,
how
thank you.
answer your questions correctly.
Yeah.
So you stop when you are not 100% sure, but you note it and then you
Yeah,
promise
yeah.
that you're going to get back to us. So I want to acknowledge Tracy for running all of those different sessions. It's very rare to find that something like this can be found in the gym.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
people only
100%.
associate gym with just a physical state of body, while we are very, I feel at least very proud that I'm a part of a gym where we take care of the entire body.
Yeah.
Like a mindset and everything,
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to see what else is coming up.
Yeah.
Me too.
Definitely
Now
won't be
we're
able to-
like, oh gosh, what's gonna happen when she has to go back?
And also this beautiful lady mentioned a club. I was actually thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's so nice to have all these ladies sitting and chatting about
Yeah.
different stuff
Yeah.
because we are all somehow connected.
I think it's so cool that we have such a wide range of ages in here too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We can all talk
Totally.
about this. So
Totally.
it's
She has a
awesome.
question.
Becky, yeah, you had a question?
For the perimenopause, or is the standard that you would only be entering that if your period is irregular, or any of the others?
I'm not 100% sure. Most of the stuff that I was reading saying like irregular periods is what defines that. But I mean, there could still be like estrogen could start declining, and it might still be high enough that you still have a regular period, but then that could start resulting in some of the other symptoms maybe coming up.
That's
for
what
sure.
happened with me.
Yeah. So definitely can
I was
happen.
having perfectly like period every time, but I was getting I thought I was losing it.
Mhm.
And I was 32 when it started.
No.
Oh yeah.
That's really.
No way.
It's been a long venture. Just wait for that
Yeah.
post.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like so.
Any other questions? Okay. One thing that I was thinking about too, like, I would love to do more stuff like this too. So like, if you guys have like questions or something too, like feel free to message me or talk to me about that. I was thinking maybe even, like I could always run the same thing for other people that couldn't come, but with you guys, like if you have follow-up questions, you could send them to me and I'm more than happy to put in the time to research them and stuff and then maybe do like a follow-up one in a few months or something. So,
We're
yeah.
gonna upload this to YouTube, so if you do have questions, you could even like put them on the video,
Yeah.
like just put,
Maybe
like,
I'll
or
share.
send it to friends or whatever.
There's
Yeah.
also this doctor I follow in the United States, her name's
Yeah.
Dr. Hager, do
Yes.
you know her?
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's been
Awesome.
a great source for me, because I suffer from pretty much all of those
Yeah.
menopause symptoms. She's been just an amazing
Yeah.
source. So,
I will add that to my list.
Yeah, can you add that to your
Yeah.
notes?
Yeah. So I'm gonna send. I have some pretty extensive notes of what we covered, some of the management, and then some of the like symptom and period tracking stuff. But I might, if you guys want to have a couple of interesting websites and stuff too, that I can link on there if you guys wanted to look into it more and stuff. So yeah.
I'd like to know more about postmenopause, because I'm
Yes.
realizing now I'm postmenopause, so I think
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I
Done.
thought some kind of light goes on.
Like something else is coming.
It's been a long time.